Hey everybody, Bob Paradise here from Attain Technology, and I want to talk about pre-construction pre-qualification for cybersecurity. Yeah, you guys probably don't know what I'm talking about, and it's a new topic. We've seen it once or twice with our construction companies, but we know it's a good idea. We know that eventually, either if you're a sub, you're going to have to do it, and as a general contractor, it's something you should start doing today, and something you should develop and mature. Why I think this is so important is because recently I've been talking to a lot of security professionals, including a few former CIA analysts, and now they are saying when, not if, right? So they are changing it. So it used to be if I get attacked, and really it's going to be when I get attacked. We at Attain Technology have taken extreme measures to make sure that we keep our clients safe, and we're also making extreme recommendations to our clients. And this is sort of taking it to the next level for construction companies, because what we want to do is we want to get the word out there. We want to make sure that the general contractors are protected, and we want to make sure our subs are prepared for the next level of IT security. When a construction company gets, or any company for that fact, gets hacked, everything grinds to a halt. And we've seen this many times. We work with other IT professionals that have had this happen. We've heard the stories. You come in one day and none of the computer equipment's useful. And the first thing your IT company or IT guy tells you to do is turn everything off. Nothing should be left on, right? So what we do is we turn everything off so we can start the process of vetting each piece of equipment and coming up with a recovery plan. If your company has no access to email, their computers, and all of their data, of course your jobs are going to be affected. Every device in that company, from the iPads that the guys in the field hold, to the office, to all the email accounts, to every computer, every laptop needs to get vetted. We have to track down that compromise and figure out where the compromise came from and then where it traveled to. And if we don't do that, we recover everything, the hacker's just going to re-encrypt everything and make the problem worse. So you come in on Monday morning, no computers, everything's off. First thing we're going to tell you to do is call your attorney and then call your insurance company. Hopefully you have cybersecurity insurance, but they're going to give us guidelines to follow so you stay within policy. So we want to make sure that this event's coverable for you. So that takes time. And if it happens after business hours, we're going to get the president of the company and the agent and hopefully get somebody on the phone to start that process. Then we get the guidelines from them, and then we got to make a decision. Are we going to call law enforcement? Are we going to report the event? If we decide to go down the law enforcement route, then law enforcement's going to ask us to back up each piece of equipment so that they have an image of it exactly the way it was before we touched them. And then we're going to have to start the process of turning on the servers first and vetting those servers. Is it compromised? Okay, let's look at the backups. One of the things the hackers are doing is they're sitting in the background for 6 months and then compromising the servers. The reason they're doing this is most companies only keep a few weeks of backup. So they're trying to be in the shadows long enough so that if you recover, they can just re-encrypt you. Also, they're trying to destroy your backup. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. So you come in Monday morning, basically your communication to the job site has failed. Your focus is on the cybersecurity attack, and your focus is off your jobs. The focus is off your business and onto the cybersecurity attack. And a typical attack takes anywhere from 4 to 5 days all the way up to a month and a half to recover. Depends on the size of your organization, depends on the complexity. Small organizations, we can get back up and running faster, but it's all labor, right? So we need to bring in some additional labor and make sure we vet those images, make sure we do our due diligence. We have some great partners in the industry. We get our partners to help us out with this. One of them is a former CIA analyst, and they have a different way of looking at things. So they help us speed up that process of that recovery. So let's say you're a general contractor and this is your sub, right? Let's say a plumbing sub, right? So all plumbing work stops. Well, that is eventually going to stop your drywallers and your carpenters, because the plumbers need to do some stuff before the carpenters and then before the drywallers. So it's going to have a cascading effect on your job. If it's the carpentry company, well, that's the beginning of the process. Electrical is the same thing. Some electrical might need to be run before the carpentry's finished, certainly before drywall goes on. Might affect wall panels. Have you ordered wall panels from a wall panel plant? What is their cybersecurity plan? Do you require a pre-qualification from them? What is their recovery plan? So if they can't get walls or floors or roof trusses to your job, is that going to affect you? So we need to think about all this. We have to think about the whole supply chain, not just the subcontractors. Let's talk about, steel manufacturers and all that, because if they're compromised and they can't produce, then your job falls behind. Right? And we all know that time is money. So let's say they're under the recovery process and they're slowly ramping up, and the job is, that sub is 2 weeks behind. What does that do to the rest of your schedule? What does that do to your job? Do you have to work to supplement that vendor while they're compromised? We know that happens. So my recommendation to all subcontractors and all general contractors, start thinking about the IT cybersecurity pre-qualification process, because it's critical to keep your jobs running. So one of the jobs that this does is it takes the low-hanging fruit. So hackers look for the low-hanging fruit. So who is it easy to encrypt? Who is it easy to target? Who is it easy to compromise? They'll hit those guys first. Our job is to move you to the top of the apple tree. And if we do that, the likelihood of you getting compromised starts falling down the ladder, right? So instead of a 50% chance of being compromised, now you have a 10% chance of being compromised. Some of the things that we're recommending in our cybersecurity prequal is have a cybersecurity plan. What is the plan? Like, what do you do for cybersecurity? Create a cybersecurity culture. I think that's critical, right? Getting everybody weary about clicking things and social phishing and stuff like that. Did you know that 80% of compromises start with an end user? And, to tell you the truth, that's a wide gap, 80%, right? So they are the easiest targets. So let's have a disaster recovery plan. Let's make sure we test that disaster recovery plan. Make sure everybody in your company has cybersecurity training at least annually, and at least quarterly have live updates from an IT professional to talk about what they're seeing and have conversations with the user. Create or gamify the process of cybersecurity, and then let's test those with phishing testing and then retrain those users. Let's reward them when they don't click on a phishing scam, and let's retrain the ones who have. Let's not make it just punitive, because we need to create that culture. We need to get them on board with cybersecurity, because they're your first line of defense. Bulletproof backup and disaster recovery. Let's vet your backup and disaster recovery. Let's make sure that the hackers really can't get to that backup and disaster recovery. And then it goes out at least a year to make sure that we can recover back. Introduce multi-factor authentication on all systems, including email. Make sure that we have a next-gen artificial intelligence, malware, and AV protection. Foothold detection and response. DNS protection. That's where everything on the internet has an IP address, and you type in www.google.com, right? Well, that www.google turns into an IP address, and there's servers that do that. So what we do is we use servers that know about the threats globally. And then if you go to a compromised site or a site that wants to download a payload to your computer, it blocks you. Commitment to mature cybersecurity framework. So start the process. Become level 1 certified in the CMMC, or start down the NIST framework. It seems daunting, and I'm not saying do it all and not require it all, but I'm saying start the process. Have a plan to move forward through the process. Make sure we have foothold detection and response on our systems. Foothold detection is looking for the tools and the tactics the criminals use to get on our systems and compromise them. So these are the things that we need to do and check to make sure that we take you off the low-hanging fruit. You don't want to be that piece of fruit that the 4-year-old can grab off the apple tree, right? You want to be the fruit at the top of the tree. Let us guide you to become more resilient to cyber attack. Anyways, I hope I was helpful. If you have any questions, my email and contact information is below. I'd be happy to spend half hour, 45 minutes with you talking about cybersecurity in general, or talking about adding a pre-qualification to your company. Let's start the conversation. Let's see where I can help. I am open to it. Thank you for spending the time with me.